Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Zoning Board meeting of April 6, 2021. My name is Gail LeBruck, and I am the chair of the board. As the chair of the Goffstown Zoning Board of Adjustment, due to the COVID-19 outbreak and in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with this emergency order, this is to confirm that we are providing access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. The ZBA is utilizing Microsoft Teams, the Microsoft Teams program, and we're also utilizing a telephone conference line for this meeting. The public has access to contemporaneously listen and participate in this meeting through dialing 603-766-5646. That again is 603-766-5646, and you would use the participant code 785-645 followed by the pound sign. Again, that participant code is 785-645 followed by the pound sign. We are providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. The town previously gave notice to the public of how to access this meeting using the available telephone number with the posted agenda. We're providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem with telephone access, please call 603-660-5000. Again, that number is 603-660-5000. Adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled for another date. All votes that are taken during this meeting are going to be done by roll call vote. And when each member states their presence, those connected telephonically are also asked to please state whether there is anyone in the room with them during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. A few of the instructions that the ZBA follows, or the guidelines that the ZBA follows for the meeting. We are a board of 5 members and up to 5 appointed alternates. Currently, we do have our 5 members and we have 5 elected members and we have 1 alternate. So if anyone is interested in serving on the ZBA, please see Nancy Larson for more information. The board has a posted agenda for each meeting and tends to follow the items in order. The board will open the public hearing on an application and receive testimony from the applicants, abutters, and affected parties, and will ask questions about it as well. The public hearing will be closed and the board will enter into a deliberative session to discuss the merits. For each application, the board will decide to approve with conditions, deny, or continue to a later meeting. And you're welcome to watch the deliberations this evening, or you can contact Nancy Larson at Town Hall for results.
Yes, there is.
For an applicant's request to be approved, there must be an affirmative vote of at least 3 members. An applicant can request a continuance if there's not a full 5-member board to act on an application. If you are aggrieved by a decision made by the ZBA tonight, you have the right to appeal to the Superior Court. However, before appealing to the Superior Court, you must first request a rehearing with this board to reserve that right to appeal. Rehearing requests must be filed within 30 days of the decision, and it must state all reasons why the decision was unlawful or unreasonable. And failure to request a rehearing may forfeit your ability to appeal to Superior Court. And I'm going to ask everyone to please join me, stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I'm going to ask the board and our zoning officer to introduce themselves, and we will start with Len.
Okay, Leonard Stewart, Vice Chairman.
And are you alone in the room, Len?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Denise?
Denise Langley, member.
And Steve's here, but he'll only be here for like 5 minutes.
Okay. Alan?
Alone.
Alan Yaton, I'm in the room by myself.
Thank you. Jason
Jason Cody, alternate member, and I'm here by myself.
and Nancy?
Nancy Larson, Zoning Code Enforcement Officer.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I am going to, tonight we have Nancy, Sandra Parker, one of our other members, is absent, so I'm going to appoint Jason Cody, our alternate, as a voting member tonight, so we will still have a 5-member board. And also, I just want to remind everybody, that's our board members, as well as anybody from the public who chooses to speak. When you are going to be speaking, I please need you to identify yourself beforehand so everybody knows who it is. If you would do that, that would be great. That would be a big help. We do have a long agenda tonight that could take quite a bit of time, so we're going to get going. The first thing on the agenda is a matter of business, and that is because we've just recently held elections, is the election of chair and vice chair of the board. Does the board prefer to do that now at the beginning of the meeting, or would you prefer to do it at the end of the meeting?
And Alan here.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Len?
I think, Gail, yeah, let's put it at the end. I think it will get more business done more efficiently.
I would, and Denise is shaking her head, yes. I agree. People do have hired representatives here with them, so we'll get moving. Okay, the next is the minutes to the ZBA meeting of March 2nd. Do we have a motion or any corrections?
I'll motion to approve the minutes from March 2nd's meeting.
Okay,
I'll second.
thank you. We have the motion by Denise, a second by Len, and roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Len?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And I say yes, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, on to our first application is Tanya Goslin, owner applicant, seeking a variance to allow the construction of a deck and a sunroom with dormers onto the rear of the home, approximately 15 feet from the side property line, whereas a minimum 25 feet setback is required per section 4.3 Table of Dimensional Regulations of the Goffstown zoning ordinance. The property is located at 16 Incline Avenue, a Class 6 road, map 42, lot 7, zoned agricultural. This was continued from the March 2nd meeting. And as we get started, I will entertain a motion regarding regional impact, please.
I'll move no regional impact.
Seconded by Alan.
Thank you, Alan. And we will do a roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Len?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And Gail says yes, motion carries. Okay, we have our applicant, Tanya. You're here?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to tell us about your application, or do you have a representative here to do that for you?
I sent all my information in. The basic, everything was drawn out.
Okay. Can
Can
you explain to us what you want to do?
put on a deck and in the sunroom.
A deck and a sunroom.
Doesn't pass the house to begin with.
It what?
It's 24 feet by 12,
24
including the deck and the sunroom.
feet, including the deck and the sunroom.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now your variance request is to construct a sunroom 15 feet from the side property boundary. Are you also constructing the deck?
Which is attached. It's all together. Originally, it was going to be just a deck all the way out to the 24 feet where the sunroom is. And then I said I could definitely use It'd be nice to just have an extra room to go out in the summertime, which is off the deck, instead of just having this long 24-foot deck.
Okay. Does the board have any questions?
Madam Chair,
Uh-huh.
if I may,
Sure.
I just want to make sure that the board has a copy of the Meridian boundary survey. It went out to all of you, and I also sent it out electronically.
I got mine.
I received mine.
Okay,
Have it.
so,
I got it.
okay, great. So originally, it was believed that the variance needed was for a 15-foot setback from the side property line, but after the survey, Meridian found that that corner of the house, and it looks like an existing deck, is 23, little over, almost 23 and a half feet away from the side property boundary.
Okay.
So that'll just have to be taken into account by whoever makes the motion.
Now, may I get clarification on the deck and porch as shown on the Meridian survey are existing, or are these the proposed improvements that we're talking about, the setback? As I recall, this case goes back to January or February, and we had been waiting on this to get a survey of the boundaries on the property for the clarity on the setback.
Actually, I haven't even gotten my copy yet. Everyone else has theirs but me.
No. Oh, no.
Let me see if I can send it to you.
Okay.
Nancy,
Yes.
I have a couple questions. Is anybody raising their hand to show you that they have a question?
You just did.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
So tell them to use their hand when they want to speak.
Very
So
good.
they're
Very good
recognized by
point.
the chair.
So everyone, if you're not familiar with Teams, you'll see along the top, there's
Mine's at the bottom.
what's
Raise
that?
your hand.
Mine's at the bottom.
Mine too.
That was mine.
Yes. So just click on that to raise your hand, and I will see that on my screen.
Mhm.
So thank you, Alan.
Okay, I have just a comment. It has to do with this survey. It's not a boundary survey. Okay? The note number 1 on the top right-hand corner says it's not a boundary survey. What it is a depiction of what they discovered in the field where they think the boundaries are. They discovered iron pins, and the owner owns the lot next door and the lot across the street. So I don't think there's a side issue on the, I'll say, the left-hand side as you look at the plan at all, because she owns that adjacent lot. According to the tax card. And then secondly, the iron pins, if you look at it, I don't have a particular problem other than the fact the deck is already framed and the foundation is in. So I think that we're playing catch-up ball on this particular.
And that was done without a permit because we did not sign off on a building permit application.
That's right. So we're trying to clarify things and clean things up so that Tanya will be legal. Because right now, she's only like 7 feet from the road, from the front property line with that porch. Although the plan says 17.3 feet, but that's to the face of the house. The porch has a roof over it, so therefore it's considered a structure and therefore is in the front setback. Further.
But I didn't build any of that. That was there when I bought the house.
Oh,
The one right on incline, the covered porch was there when I bought this house.
That's correct. It's actually on the tax card, that porch.
Okay.
Okay? I'm not complaining about the porch. I'm just explaining it to the board members. Tanya.
Oh, sorry.
Alan,
Yes,
I just want to say that I think I disagree with you about the effect on the adjacent lot that she owns. For now, there's no effect, but if the lot were to be sold, that's a concern.
that is correct.
You mean
But-
across the street?
No, across
My
the
septic
street is where your
is
septic system. Across the street is where your septic system is.
Correct. And I own that. And I can't
Yes, you
sell
own that too.
septics on it.
Um,
Illegal for me to do that anyways if I wanted to sell it, which I'm.
but if you wanted to
I
sell the
would have-
adjacent lot, if you wanted to sell the adjacent lot, that's probably non-buildable because of the wetland that's in
Correct.
there.
Correct. There's a lot of wetlands actually around here. Yeah.
Well, there's more than you'd want. Yes,
Yeah, there's quite a bit in the back.
yes.
So I can't do anything with that land.
The chances are probably slim.
Right.
So those are my comments. Other than that, I have no further comments. It's just a comment on the plan and what it represents. It's what they found in the field. It doesn't actually talk about meets and bounds and distances anywhere on this plan.
Nancy, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Tanya, I just emailed you the Meridian plan.
Okay.
And Denise?
So I just I'm looking at through her application. So it looks like there's going to be a 24-foot deck. 12 feet of that will be a sunroom and 12 feet of that will be a deck. Is that correct?
That's
Oh, that's a
What's that?
horrible sound.
Basic, Denise,
Yes, Alan?
Yes.
basically what she's doing is filling in the back corner of the house.
Correct.
So she's even with the end of the existing house,
Mm-hmm.
the left side, and she's even with the back of the L that's on the back, on the right side.
Right.
And that's already framed and in place with foundations and pressure treated framing.
Well, I want to just thank her for going and getting the layout done officially as we requested. Appreciate that.
Does the board have any other questions or comments? I'm not hearing any. How about you, Tanya? Do you have any other input that you want to provide for the board?
no. I mean, I've sent out everything to my knowledge to where it would be understood.
Okay. Do you have your copy of your application with you?
Yes.
What I'm looking for, we need to get into the record your explanation regarding the request for variance and the criteria and why you say that you meet them. We need to get that on the record. If you don't have it, I can read it for you. If you want to read it yourself or make the comments yourself, then that's okay too.
Okay, sure.
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
Hold on just a minute. Denise,
Oh, Denise, you're
You're
muted.
you're muted.
I want to make sure it's read correctly into the record exactly what she needs for setback now that she has this updated plan.
That she needs 23 feet plus.
Correct versus 15 as requested in her application.
Yes. And Alan, what was it you wanted to say?
I would like to forego the reading into the record and just have it ordained that it be printed in the record by the secretary.
And it will be reflected on the notice of decision.
Yes.
Is the board okay with that?
I think that will expedite things significantly.
Okay, then we can forego that. And If the board has no further questions, then I'll close the public hearing. Open the hearing to the public, I'm sorry. Do we have anybody in the public who wants to comment, Nancy?
We have, so let me just unmute the participants. Just give me a moment. There were several people. Let's go down the list here on Teams. It doesn't appear. There are several people on the phone, so let me just unmute everybody there. See, I recognize some of these as being applicants. So for anyone out there who's listening on their telephone, if you would like to raise your hand, then you can do so by, I'm sorry, I just had it in front of me.
Star 9?
Well, yes, I believe so, but I don't see it on my list here. So I have an individual on the phone with the last 4 digits of 1119.
Yes.
Are you
Yes,
interested in?
No comment.
No comments. Okay.
Listening.
Thank you.
Just listening. Thank you.
All right. And then we go down to last 4 digits of 9402. Do you wish to offer any comment?
No comment, just listening.
All right, thank you. And then we next go to 7596. Do you wish to make any comments on this application?
No, just listening.
Okay, thank you. And then we have 6740. Would you like to?
No comment.
No comment, thank you. And then 7024. Would you like to make any comments for this application?
No comment.
All right, thank you, folks.
That's everybody, Nancy?
That's everybody.
Okay. Seeing that there's no comment from the public, I'm going to close the public hearing and the board can enter deliberations. Do we have any input? Or any comments, discussion, motion?
Participants unmuted.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead, Alan.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance as requested, approximately 15 feet from the side property line, whereas 25 feet setback is required per section 4.3 of the Goffstown zoning ordinance. The property is located at 16 Incline Avenue, a Class 6 road, map 42, lot 7, zoned agricultural.
Can we,
Yeah,
go ahead,
I'd like-
Denise.
You want to have discussion now? You want me to second it?
You want to second it and then we'll have discussion?
Okay, I'll second that.
Can we adjust the distance? Because it's not 15 feet, it's actually 23 plus.
Well, I'd actually like to make it 21.4 because of, if they're making a sunroom, it's going to have a roof, some overhang.
The roof overhang doesn't count.
Okay? Leave it at 23.4 then, instead of 15.
Okay, 23.4 feet.
Yes.
Okay, is that okay with you, Alan?
Yes, it is.
Okay, we will take a roll call vote. Alan,
Yes,
Denise,
Yes.
Len,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
and Gail says yes. Motion carries. You
Madam Chair,
Uh-huh.
sorry to interrupt. I just want it, since it's been so long, and I just wanted to make sure and clarify for everyone that Ms. Goslin did review the criteria for a variance at the first meeting.
Okay,
I want to make sure, because if that didn't take place, then we haven't done it yet tonight.
I believe per Allen, we waived and
we waived it.
stipulated it was going to be printed in the meeting.
we
Right?
waived it tonight, but at the first meeting before, when it was initially continued, we Nancy's saying we addressed the variance criteria.
I recall that.
What was the date of that meeting?
March 2nd?
No,
No,
Back
because
in
she
February.
requested, it would have been February 2nd.
I want to look at the meeting minutes if you don't mind just
Nope, I
allowing
don't
me a few
mind.
minutes.
It's better safe than sorry.
So it was February 9th was the meeting.
Oh, was it?
Oh,
Oh,
thanks,
yes.
Denise.
You're welcome.
I'm looking at the minutes and it's not in there.
Mine are just opening up right now.
There was a copy of those minutes in the packet.
Of the February or the March?
The February 9th one was in my package.
I did ask Patty to include a couple of sets of minutes for one of the applications, and yes, I believe
Page 16.
Yep, February 9th. Oh, that was, yeah, I asked Patty to include the minutes for the two requests for rehearing. So I'm just going to go through the minutes for Tanya Goslin's presentation. See.
If my memory serves me, Tanya, is this the first time you come to the meeting?
She wasn't there
Yes.
to
Right.
February
Exactly.
19th.
That's what I recall. Okay.
Okay,
I
so
thought this went back to January, actually.
February, I have the meeting minutes up for February 9th. And it says, Alan Yaton said he'd like to request the applicant provide a surveyed site plan so we know what the setbacks were and what is being proposed. And Nancy Larson said Ms. Goslin indicated she was able to find all four of her boundary monuments. So anyways,
They weren't addressed.
the decision was that it be produced. She was going to try to have it ready for the March 2nd meeting, but I don't see any presentation of any application at that meeting.
No, there was not.
So she asked for a continuance from that meeting to have the time to get this done.
Right, but what I'm saying is there was no discussion of the application or the 5 criteria.
Right.
Nope. No.
And Jason, you thought it went back to January?
No, I just looked at January's minutes. They're not. It was February. It was the first
Okay.
time this was addressed.
Okay, thank you. So there was a motion to continue the application to the March 2nd, 2021 meeting to allow time for the survey. And that was it. Then we adjourned the meeting. So there hasn't been any presentation of the 5 criteria, so that needs to be done.
Okay, so we do need to get them on the record. Do you want to read them, Tanya, or do you want me to?
Excuse me.
Alan, what's that?
Do they have to be read into the record or can they be recognized and then put in the minutes of the meeting? That was the question I asked earlier.
Well, they don't necessarily have to be read, but they should be addressed at the meeting. So usually we just have them read it, they can have their choice of reading it or addressing them. But it has to be and it can't be just in the minutes, it's also going to be in the meeting itself.
Then why don't you read them?
Okay,
Okay, Madam Chair?
yep. Are you okay with that, Tanya?
Sure.
Okay. So your variance is, okay, the criteria granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because the location does not extend past the footprints. Frontage and side are not affected or changed in appearance or development. The spirit of the ordinance is observed because on such a small lot, there's no suitable land for building expansion. It would do substantial justice because the homestead is small and cozy, but storage is an issue, and it would be pleasant to face the woods instead of roadway and pump up leach field. The values of the surrounding properties will not be diminished because there have been tremendous remodels and improvement to the cabin. The proposed addition completes the process started. Regarding hardship, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because its location in the rear-facing woodland forest. There are no existing homestead properties, neither rear or side of proposed additions, just woods. The proposed use is a reasonable one because there's no impact to the land development, woodlands, impediment, or wetland impacts. And criteria B, if hardship is not established in criteria A, she said, if the majority of this land plot extends into the rear, twice the dimension as compared to the frontage. It's all wetlands, cannot be used. Other issues, upon recent purchase of this property, we've removed the ugly, dilapidated building across the cabin, cleaned much debris and general junk scattered about, tremendous cosmetic improvement. So that's what we have for the variance criteria. Is there anything you want to add to that, Tanya? No, all set? Okay, so we will get back to where we were with the motion. We had the motion from Alan and the second from Denise. No, we had the motion. Yes, we had the motion from Alan.
That's correct.
Second from Denise. And we actually voted to approve it with my notes. So that's right, correct? We did do the vote on this already?
Then I
Yes.
interrupted.
Yes, we did.
Okay, all right, so we have everything on the record that we need. We have the vote, you have your variance.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tanya.
Congratulations.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, our next applicant is Toby and Renee Gamache, owners, and Andrew H. Sullivan Esquire. Applicants seek variances for the following. Variance to create a lot with 8,867 square feet land of area, whereas 10,000 square feet is required. Variance to create 2 lots with inadequate frontage, 79.19 feet of frontage for proposed lot 28-1, whereas 100 feet is required and 88.67 feet of frontage for the parent lot 28, whereas 100 feet is required. Lastly, a variance to permit an existing non-conforming shed on proposed lot 28-1 to remain 4.4 feet from the side property line, whereas 15 feet is the minimum required, and 9.6 feet from the rear property line, whereas 30 feet is the minimum required. These variance requests concern section 4.3, table of dimensional regulations of the Goffstown zoning ordinance, and the property is located at 43 Pershing Street, map 16, lot 28. And I will entertain a motion regarding regional impact, please.
I make a motion, there's no regional impact. That's Alan speaking.
Thank you.
Denise seconds it.
Denise, thank you. We'll do a roll call vote. Alan?
Yes?
Denise?
Yes.
Len?
Yes,
Jason?
Yes,
And Gail says yes, motion carries. And do we have a representative here for the applicants?
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me. Andy Sullivan.
Hello, Attorney Sullivan, how are you?
Very well, thank you. I hope the same for you.
Yes, thank you. All right, what do you want to tell us about this application?
Well, first, if we could just look at the plan, that's Exhibit H. Just kind of will point out what the deviations you just pointed out. So this is one of the largest lots out there on Persian Street in that whole area. The portion that's going to be the new lot, proposed 28, there's nothing on there now except that shed. That will have 79.19 feet of frontage. It goes back 100 feet and has 10,000 square feet. So it's the size required for the R2 zone. The house lot, the existing house lot, its setback dimensions, the front, the side, the rear, they're all existing grandfathered dimensions. Nothing we can do about that. But we created the new proposed lot line to meet the side setback of 15 feet. Hello?
We can hear you, Attorney Sullivan.
Okay. So if you look at the plan, you'll see on the exhibit on the right-hand side, which is where the existing house is, that's going to have 8,867 feet. The front, right-hand side, and rear setbacks are grandfathered in. The left side, we have 15 feet. We have more than 15 feet setback there. In the shed on the other lot, the 28.1, it's sitting there. It's really too big to move. So it's either going to stay there or it's going to have to be removed. But that's the physical layout. I also included as exhibits an area overlay exhibit I and a chart of lot dimensions, as well as the annotated tax map. The tax map annotation is exhibit C and the chart dimensions exhibit D. And in that, there's approximately 13 to 14 lots, all of which have under 100 feet of frontage and under 10,000 square feet of area. So the proposal, what we have here in this R2 zone, is consistent with the neighborhood. It will fit in. It's asking for lots that are similarly situated there. The package I submitted is part of the record, but I will go over the highlights for the 5 criteria. But what I went over all those points in my package. They're part of the record. But in effect, again, we have right now one of the largest, if not the largest, on the street, lot of 18,867 square feet. Most of the lots there have 100 feet of depth and at least 80 feet of frontage. Many, as I pointed out in the annotated tax map, have less than 100 feet. So in terms of hardship, the dimensions provide a reasonable use of the proposed lot in this higher density small lot zone. The R2 zone is, as defined in its definitions, its purpose is, the purpose of R2 zone is to create in a single family lot area, possibly 2, lots of sufficient yard size to support a detached single family home. In here, we have 10,000 square feet in the proposed new lot. The frontage is less than 100, but we have 10,000 square feet. There's ample room, ample setbacks to create a single family detached home on a lot that meets all other dimensional requirements except for the frontage in it regarding that shed area, the setback in the shed. In the existing house has been there since 1935. It pre-existed in terms of its north, east, and southerly setbacks, and the proposed new setback will be in excess of 15 feet as required in the zone. It's got square footage and area, if you look at the chart, Exhibit D and an annotated tax map, of similarly situated lots in the area of at least 8,000 square feet. This is almost 9,000 square feet. So in terms of its irregular shape, it's trapezoidal. The 2 lots, if you see in the area overlay, they're just like it because that area was comprised of 2 historic subdivision plans that ended at an angle, and that's why it had this odd shape. But that makes it different than most every other lot in there. It's also so large. So the property is different in a meaningful way from virtually all other properties in the area. Okay, and consequently, there's no really substantial relationship between the general purpose of this R2 zone, allowing smaller lots, single-family detached lots, possibly 2, in this zone, when we have 10,000 square feet of area, ample frontage for emergency access. There's no question that emergency vehicles to reach both of these lots. And the existing house lot is almost 9,000 square feet, and it's the same size or greater than many of the other lots in that area. So there's really no fair and substantial relationship between the general purpose and specific restrictions on this property. Consequently, the property owner would be denied a reasonable use of the existing lot in creating the two proposed lots because there's no substantial relationship. Also, granting the variance is consistent with the uses intended by the zoning, and allowing the two lots as configured on the variance plan will still reasonably achieve the general purpose of the zoning ordinance of promoting public health, safety, health, and general welfare. Consequently, the lots will reasonably meet the zoning purposes in general, and particularly in the R2 zone, and denial of variance will commensurately deny a reasonable use of the property consistent with the neighborhood and largely compliant with the zoning ordinance. In terms of the public and spirit of the ordinance, is a case law, Chester Rod and the Gun Club, the Chester I point out, and it holds that to be contrary to public interest, the variance must be an unduly and in a marked degree conflict with the ordinance, such that it violates the ordinance basic zoning objectives. Now, I just pointed out that this does not create a marked and unduly conflict, such that it violates the basic zoning objectives. Mere conflict of the terms is insufficient. In terms of, and that addresses both public interest and spirit of the ordinance because they're always examined together. In terms of substantial justice, any loss to an individual that is not outweighed by a gain to the public is an injustice. Here, we have this extraordinary large lot that is largely unused, 10,000, more than 50% is being unused right now. There's an old house on there. There's no way to put any other new house unless it's subdivided out, and it will increase the tax base. So I submit that granting the variance will not cause harm to the general public that outweighs the benefit to the property owner. Here, there's a reasonable use. It should be allowed to use that reasonable use. It will not harm the general public. In terms of the value, I submitted a broker's opinion, and that opinion says that allowing these two lots and a new house to be built there will not diminish the surrounding property values. I stand open for questions if you have any.
Board, do you have any questions? Len, do you have questions?
None from me, thank you.
Alan?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Denise?
Not at this time.
Jason?
None from me, thank you.
Okay. I guess I don't either at this point. Okay, do we have anybody from the public here?
Yes, we have the applicant, Toby Gamache. Let's see, Mr. Gamache? Mr. Gamache, can you hear me okay? Hold on. You heard me before. He's not hearing me now. Hold on just one moment. Mr. Gamache, this is Nancy Larson. Can you hear me? Are you? Can you hear me okay? Just try one thing here. Might have. Can you hear me, Mr. Gamache? I can hear you. Hold on.
Participants muted.
Okay.
Participants unmuted.
Okay.
Hi, this is his wife.
Hi, I can hear you just fine. This is Nancy Larson. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, terrific. So, Madam Chair, we have Mrs. Gamache on the line.
Mrs. Gamache, my name is Gail. I'm the chair of the board. Do you have anything that you want to add to what your attorney has said?
No, not at this time.
Nothing? Okay. Okay. Board? Is everybody set? Do you have questions? Alan?
Yes, just as a note, that diagonal wall is a stone wall that it pre-existed, and that's why that odd-shaped lot exists, is because they use the stone wall that's there to create the property line.
Okay.
And so therefore, it does create a little inconsistency and difficulty, because if it was a rectangular lot, it would probably be more frontage and probably would meet the ordinance for frontage if that was to take place. But what they did is they followed a stone wall back in 1910. when these lots, which were 25 foot wide, were created.
Yeah.
So it was always planned at some point in time to have a very dense neighborhood, or individuals could buy 25 feet or 50 foot or 75 foot. That's how it is in Manchester also. And Amherst-Big Industries divided it all into 25-foot frontage lots. So it's just a terminology, and it was planned for a dense development. And I'm in favor of what's being proposed as being a reasonable, if you want to call it, densification of the neighborhood. Because there are a lot of other lots on those side streets on the west side that have 150 foot of frontage. And so as time goes along, somebody's going to say, well, the house is on one side. What can I do with the rest? I think that's a reasonable request.
Thank you for the history lesson, Alan.
Oh, I've run into it before in the past.
Len, you got any comments?
I do not. It seems to me to be a reasonable proposal also.
My concern is that it's making two non-conforming lots from a conforming lot. So that's my concern, and I kind of think it strays a bit from the zoning objectives.
May I comment on that?
Sure. I'm open.
Kind of like what Alan said, it's the oddity of the lot shape. And we got a 10,000 square foot, and we get this trapezoidal lot left over. There's no way I can get a rectangle out of that. If we kept it as is, it will remain the largest lot in that area with nobody using that other side. So that's the intrinsic hardship.
The hardship is that you have the biggest lot in the neighborhood?
The hardship is that we don't have the frontage to make a reasonable use of the biggest lot in the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Denise?
Gail, I was kind of leaning your way when I was reviewing this earlier this week. But I've done a lot of research and looking through those neighborhoods, and there are a lot of small lots. It's a congested area. This is a large lot for that area. I think it's a reasonable request.
Okay. Okay, we already checked in. There's nobody from the public, because technically I do need to open it to the public for a moment.
We have a phone number ending in 0495. Would you like to speak on behalf of this application? Can you hear me okay?
Hello?
Hello? Hi, who is this?
Hello? This is Dave Cormier, last
7596? Okay, would you like to?
Yeah, we were just dropped out of the whole thing. We barely heard anything about this proposal. We could barely hear what the lawyer was talking about. and then it just went dead.
Really?
Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah,
was,
another-
pardon me?
This is the second time it went dead during the meeting, and then it just, you guys popped back on again.
Are you in a butter?
Yeah,
Okay, so you're saying you did not hear any part of this presentation by Attorney Sullivan?
we could just barely hear some of what he was saying. It's same as like with the chairman. She's all broken up. You're nice and clear.
Okay,
With a couple of the board members, and it's like we're trying to hear what he had to say with all the stuff, and I heard bits and pieces of it.
yeah, he's coming through a little bit muffled, and I'm not sure why that is. Everyone else is clear at this end, and
they're crisp and perfect clear, but even the chairman, she's very muffled, and we got to really strain to hear what she's saying during the meeting.
yeah, it's
Some of the lawyers talked about that some of the other properties are odd shaped, with what they're proposing here. But all those properties, we've been up there for 29 years. All those properties are all existing. They've all been grandfathered for their size. It seems like everything from that stone wall that you were all talking about, all fall under what the latest or the new town ordinances were. And all the properties in the middle of their property boundaries. And in the case of what they're proposing, it seems like a lot of variances that they're looking at to try to squeeze in the building lot in an area that obviously isn't big enough to have a lot without making all these variances. So for me, that doesn't make sense on trying to bend the rules that much so somebody can squeeze in a house lot.
And I'm sorry, can you just state your name and address so we can get it into the record?
Yep, David Cormier, 47 First.
Thank you, Mr. Cormier.
And my wife here too. Do you want her name?
Gail? Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, hers is Catherine with
Catherine with a C?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Did everyone hear Mr. Cormier's comments?
Yes.
Yes.
Attorney Sullivan, were you able to hear his comments?
Yes, I was.
Is there anybody else from the public, Nancy?
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Cormier, you said something?
Yeah, my wife's got a question.
Okay, Mrs. Cormier has a question.
Yes, because we could not hear what the lawyer has said and the conversations after the were cut out completely. How do we get access to that information?
Well, the information is here in town hall. Are you in a butter to the? Are you in a butter
Yes.
to?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Better, but giving explanation, and it would have been nice to hear explanation, not just it on paper. This is the variances, but it would have been nice to understand, the explanation, and that's the part we don't understand, or heard on the phone.
right. Madam Chair, we have a couple of different options. How would you like to proceed?
I'm wondering if Attorney Sullivan could give them the explanation or the understanding that they're looking for.
But if he
I
doesn't,
will.
we can't hear.
Yeah. So I'm not sure why you are having trouble hearing. Attorney Sullivan, is there some setting that you can change? I don't know if you can turn up the volume on your.
I just did. I could maybe attempt to call my phone if that would help.
I think it seems clear that the Cormiers were not able to hear most of the presentation, and they have questions, and of course, it's concerning if an applicant was unable to communicate to an abutter who is called in.
I'd be happy to do it again. I don't know what you can hear. Can you hear me now? Or do you want me to call by phone?
Mrs. and Mr. Cormier, could you just hear Attorney Sullivan?
We can just barely hear him. He's muffled.
It is coming through muffled at this end too.
I'm hearing him fine. I hear everybody. I hear everybody fine. Do you want to try to call in, Attorney Sullivan, and see if that makes a difference?
Sure. So I'm calling into 766 join pound symbol.
That's correct. So 603-766-5646.
Okay.
And
what
then
what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute here so as not to cause interference. Then we'll call up.
Okay. And you also have the participation code in front of you? It's on the top of the agenda. I can give it to you if you just want to jot it down.
Yeah, go. Okay.
Okay, the participation code is 785.
Yep.
645, followed by the pound sign.
785-645 pound.
That's correct.
Okay, I see it. Okay, so I'm gonna mute myself here.
So just bear with us for a couple of minutes, Mrs. and Mr. Cormier. You're welcome.
While he does that, we were not able to hear what the board had to say afterwards.
Okay, well, we'll try to address that. Let's first cover one hurdle at a time and make sure that when Attorney Sullivan calls in that you're able to hear him. So he's in the process of calling that phone number now, so he should show up on my screen any minute.
I also tried calling the assistance number and left a message. They didn't call back.
Okay. Attorney Sullivan, can you hear me?
Yes, everybody's a little bit of an echo, but I can hear you and I can hear Mrs. Cormier.
Okay.
Yeah, we hear him perfect.
You can hear him okay?
Yeah, perfectly. We hear him just like we hear you.
Okay. All right, terrific.
Okay, great. So I'll start again. If anybody has an issue hearing me, stop me and I'll see what we can do.
How supposed to stop you on the phone?
What was that, Mrs. Cormier?
Well, if we said stop him, if we can't hear him, how do we do that when we're on the phone? We're not on Teams.
No, that's okay. You just let me know. I don't have either of you muted, so just let me know.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Initially, I went over the plan, and the plan that was submitted shows the new proposed lots. The existing lot at 43 has 167.86 feet of frontage on the northerly side of Pershing. The proposed is breaking this into two lots. The existing house lot will have 88.67 feet of frontage and 8,867 square feet of area. Its front, east, and southerly setbacks are grandfathered in. The house was built there in 1935. Its new west side lawn only requires 15, but it's going to have almost 25. It will have 24.8 feet. The proposed lot with the stone wall, the infamous stone wall, will have 79.19 feet of frontage in 10,000 square feet. 10,000 square feet is the area that's required in this R2 zone. Additionally, there's an existing shed alongside the stone wall, which is 4.4 feet from the sideline, should have 15, and 9.6 feet from the rear line, should have 30. That is also a request to be allowed to stay. It's too big to move, so if it was denied, it would have to be taken down. So when the dust settles, if this is granted, there would be two lots, a 10,000 square foot lot with approximately 80 feet of frontage and a 8,867 square foot lot with approximately a little less than 90 feet of frontage. I also appended to my application an annotated tax map and a schedule of lots in the area. There's approximately 13 to 14 lots in the immediate area, both on Persia Street and on Foch Street behind it, that have 80 or less frontage in less than 10,000 square feet. I brought that to the board's attention to show that what is being proposed here is consistent with the character of the neighborhood, meaning the lots being proposed are no different than many, many lots in the area. The intrinsic hardship here is I have one of the largest lots in the street, in the area, and I can't really use it unless it's broken up because I already have a house tucked into the eastern side. So going through the criteria, I submit in this R2 zone, which is an urban zone with higher density than otherwise, I have a proposal that creates one lot that's consistent with many lots in the area, and the other lot that has the area that's required and a frontage is also consistent with many lots in the area. So it would be a hardship not to be able to utilize this large lot. It's a reasonable use. It does not create a negative impact on values. I submitted a broker's opinion, and that broker opined that what is being proposed would not diminish the surrounding values. And in fact, it's pretty much universal that a new house on any street automatically ticks up the value of everybody else's properties. So the hardship is that we have this lot that does not have 200 feet of frontage, but it's the largest lot in area. It's 18,000 plus square feet. But it's a reasonable use. Now, I submitted in my application that when we examine what is construed to be the public purpose, if you will, of a density or a frontage, the frontage is a ways to arrive at density. But here we have density that's consistent with the small area of the town in the R2 zone. So the proposal I submit does not unduly, in a marked way, become inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood. And because of that, there's no fair and substantial relationship between forcing it to have 100 feet of frontage on a new lot when it has 10,000 square feet, and in the other lot when it has less than 100 feet of frontage when it's an existing house that's been there for 85 years, and the only setback that can be manipulated exceeds the amount of setback required for this particular zone. In terms of the spirit of the ordinance, this does not, in a marked degree, and as a case I submitted, Chester Rod v. Town of Chester, it says, to be contrary to the public interest, the variance must be unduly and in a marked degree conflict with the ordinance such that it violates the ordinance basic objective. Here, the basic objectives is for the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood, but in a high-density residential zone. The R2 zone is established to accommodate existing and future residential development at higher densities, but on smaller lots. That's a direct quotation from the definitions in the town ordinance. And I submit that what we're proposing does not unduly conflict with that zoning objective. And because of that, it is not contrary to the public interest or the spirit of the ordinance. In terms of substantial justice, the general rule is that any loss to the individual that is not outweighed by gain to the public is an injustice. Here, the Gamashes would be unable, if it was not granted, to make a reasonable use of this large extra 10,000 square feet that they have. And that would be an injustice to them. It really wouldn't benefit the public because it's still creating lots consistent with the character of the neighborhood. And because of that, the substantial justice would be done if the variance was granted. And then at the end, I submitted also a broker's opinion, and his opinion is that the granting of the variance as proposed would not diminish the surrounding property values. And in the package, I had the tax map, the zoning, the analysis of various lots with 80 feet or less of frontage and less than 10,000 square feet. In fact, I picked out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 lots in that area that are under 10,000 square feet. The majority of those 12 were 8,000 square feet. 2 were around 5,000 square feet, and the majority were under 80, either 80 feet or less than frontage. Submitted.
Okay. Who is on that's still alive? I have a number of frozen windows on my screen here. Are we back, Nancy?
Yeah, I think we're back.
I think we lost Gail.
Go ahead.
Gail?
Gail looks like she's gone.
I
Yeah,
saw her freeze and then drop out, but
She's been having
back in.
She's been having bandwidth problems, I know, at the last meeting, so just
Maybe
give her a
she'll
minute
call
to
in.
come back to us.
The joys of technology. Thank you for everyone's patience.
I understand that they're trying to bring last mile fiber into Goffstown and it couldn't happen soon enough.
Well, Jason, I have a question for you. Can you hear me?
I'm off the
Jason?
clock. I'm not doing tech support tonight.
Okay, well,
No, I'm kidding.
actually you are.
What's up?
I am not able to see the list of participants. I'm only seeing the gallery with, you know, everyone's name and them live. I can see their faces, but if Gail is out there in the waiting room in the lobby, I can't admit her because I'm not seeing that part of my screen.
You could try double clicking up on the top where it says April 6th, 2021 ZBA meeting.
I don't see that.
Okay.
I may see something different because I'm the
Do you see the little icons on the top with the hand raising and the mute and the video?
yes.
Okay. If you do you see the little X and square and line on the upper right corner? Like where you would close down a window?
No,
Okay.
I'm not seeing anything like that.
So if you move your
Oh.
mouse,
I just fixed it. Sorry for interrupting. Yeah, it show conversation, and that has everyone's list of who was invited to the meeting, and I'm just going to scroll up and see if that gives me anything.
yeah, I don't see Gail in the list.
I don't either.
Typically with Teams, we would all be able to see at least somebody waiting.
Yeah.
She's not trying to call.
No, let me just, I'm sorry, folks, for this.
Mm-hmm.
Are the abutters still on?
Yes, the butters are patiently waiting.
Okay, and they were able to hear. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
And I was kidding, Nancy. I'll always do tech support for you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to mute myself so you don't hear my conversation.
Or hear the cussing.
Yeah.
This is where the Goffstown TV puts up the intermission sign.
Or the pardon us technical difficulties sign is more like it.
Jason,
I've just gotten an email from Gail that she may ask me to take over. She's frozen out and trying to get back in, so we'll wait until Nancy returns and see where we are.
Alan, did you call me?
yes, is there something, do all of us see the same screen? Like I'm looking at you on the screen right now. Your smiling face. And I'm down in the right-hand corner of my screen, but I think all of us have a
Okay.
different screen.
Hold on. Gail is, she got frozen out of her computer, so she actually called in, so she's on the phone, so.
And
Okay.
Where was that? How far did you guys get?
Oh, we stopped when we realized that you were no longer with us.
Did Attorney Sullivan get through his presentation?
Attorney Sullivan?
I did. I don't know if it was heard.
Okay.
Did the abutters hear it?
Yes.
You heard everything? Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, does the abutters have any questions or comments?
Well, the comment that I have was, we've been up here for 28 or 29 years, and all these other properties that he mentioned, they were all existing. I mean, nobody's built anything new up here since we've been here. And it seems like a lot of variances are being asked of their property to be able to try to squeeze in a building site. And when we bought the house up here, it was because of the openness, around and stuff. And that lot's always been the way it is because of the grandfathering, is the way they set it up way back when. But basically, everything on the other side of this infamous wall that we hear about, that we live on, now all the houses are in the middle of the property. So even on Folk Street behind us, nobody's built back there, like I said, since we've been here. So they've all fallen under the old rule. And it just seems to me like they're trying to move lots around to make a lot fit. And I just wanted the board to kind of make sure that they're kind of aware of that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Is there?
Oh, my wife has a spoken to.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, question for the attorney. So, could you, just two questions. Well, first question is, could you repeat, because I couldn't hear very well, the benefit to the applicant?
Right. Well, as everybody's pointed out, we have a large lot. The benefit to the applicant is he can now utilize land which otherwise is not going to be utilized. As you point out, there are many lots in there that pre-existed that are small, but that is the character of the neighborhood. What he's trying to do is create two lots similar to the character of the neighborhood, even though they've been there for many years. And without the variance, he won't be able to do that. So his benefit is be able to create two out of one, but still maintain consistency with the essential character of the neighborhood.
It's for a building lot. They're looking at selling it to
Correct. Single family building house.
So that's correct. Sorry, just to confirm that they want to divide the lot to sell the lot and or put a house on that lot to sell the lot and the house.
Well, I don't know if they're going to build. It's going to create a single-family building lot in this area.
Okay. And the intention is to sell it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then my second question is, that you had thought either from consultation or somebody that says that the property values go up in the neighborhood when a new house goes in.
I submitted in my package a broker's opinion indicating that it met the criteria of a variance, and one of the criteria is that will not diminish the surrounding property values. Then I made my own comment. I've been doing this for 40 years, and in my experience, whenever there's a new house that goes up, it pretty well upticks all the other houses because it increases a comp. That was not a broker's opinion. That was my opinion based on my 40 years of experience.
It increases what?
A new house, in my opinion, based on my experience, generally increases the value of surrounding houses because it's an increased a comparable value.
Oh. That's what the part I didn't hear you. Sorry. In addition to not hearing very well, I also have hearing loss, so I have to ask to confirm people to repeat. So that's why I'm asking again. So
That's okay.
Sure.
Need to make sure you can hear everything all right.
Right. In addition to not hearing.
Yeah, so don't be shy.
Thank you. Okay. So I guess I didn't really understand how the housing market works in that if a new house goes in, its value goes higher. So the surrounding houses go up as well. That's what you're saying.
That is my opinion from observation. It's a higher comp.
Okay. Thank you.
Nancy?
Yes.
I just want to comment that the Realtor's opinion states that the granting of this variance would have no negative impact or diminution of value to any neighboring property values. There are numerous homes on Pershing Street which have similar sized lots of approximately 80 feet of road frontage, which does not look out of place and fit quite nicely in the district. It's also this Realtor's opinion that the creation of a new building lot would blend in well with neighboring homes and would be a welcome addition to the area. So she did not state that values would increase, but she said that it would have no negative impact.
Right. I said the comment about increased value was my own personal opinion.
Yes, I understand that.
But the realtor stated exactly what you said.
Thank you, Gail. Madam Chair? Christy Witten has raised her hand.
Okay.
I just wanted to confirm, I'm a real estate agent and I sell over 100 homes a year. I agree with what they're saying. It won't necessarily raise the value of properties that are not similar in square footage. So if you have a much smaller or a much larger home, it wouldn't be an exact comp, but it will absolutely add value to the neighborhood and the surrounding homes. And it would not decline value in any way, in my opinion, as an agent.
Thank you. Gail, are you back on with us?
I'm trying. It still says trying to connect.
Okay. There. I admitted you, and it's now on my monitor.
Okay, so I'm going to turn off my phone.
Okay.
And turn on my microphone here.
Okay, great.
Nancy, if you can hear me, I think I'll do the same.
I can
hang
hear
up
you.
and turn on my mic.
Okay, I can hear you just fine.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Nancy?
welcome back.
I can even see you now.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so are there any more butters that want to comment?
Mrs. and Mr. Cormier, you're all set now?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see, we do have, Toby Gamache, 5498. I don't recall, we've been sitting here for a while, so I don't recall if, Mr. or Mrs. Gamache had anything to say or any questions.
No, there's no questions.
Okay, thank you. And then we have last four digits of 0495. Is there anything you would like to say about this application, for or against, questions, comments? Okay, we'll move on to 9402. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, and no comments.
No
or
comments.
Questions for this.
Okay, great. Going back to, looks like Ken Russo, 0495. Can you hear me all right? Yeah, I'm not receiving anything from Mr. Russo's phone number.
Okay. Well, any more questions? Sullivan.
Attorney Sullivan?
Oh,
Yes.
frozen again.
Gail, did you, you're frozen on the screen, but can you still hear me? Gail?
What?
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Did you just ask Attorney Sullivan if he had anything more to add or any questions?
Yes.
No, I do not.
Okay. Then I'm going to close the public hearing and the board can enter deliberations. Do we discuss or motion, questions, concerns to discuss?
So, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to say, when everybody else was talking about the area, but I went up there and did a little field trip. I don't see that it would not fit into that area at all. I think it would be fine. There actually a couple streets over there actually looks to be some additional new construction, kind of like what looks like would end up happening with this. So it looks like it would all fit well within that neighborhood.
Yeah, I would only also offer that I did examine the site and it doesn't seem to be at all out of character with the neighborhood or the surrounding property.
Okay. Alan, any more comments?
I particularly am in agreement with the proposed zoning request, but my question is, why do they need a variance for the shed that's pre-existing? It's grandfathered.
Yeah, because I'm creating a new lot, my understanding is it gets readdressed because I'm creating a new lot.
Wow.
And there's a very good chance that when it goes to the planning board will, usually what happens is if there are anything like usually it happens with sheds, that if they are non-conforming, they need to be moved or removed. So this covers that possibility when this will go to the planning board for subdivision approval.
Okay.
If they succeed tonight.
You know
Okay.
what? There was, I just had a question come up and based on the redrawing of the property line, so the current main home parcel would not include the shed, right? So the shed would kind of be the leftover structure on the new parcel of land. So no house, but just a shed.
Correct.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Do you have any comments?
Oh, frozen, Gail.
Gail, can you hear us okay?
I hear you.
Yep, okay.
Do you have any questions or comments, Denise?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant the variance that's requested. Both for the subdivision of the parcel and for the shed.
I'll second that, that's Denise.
Just a discussion.
Mhm.
That?
Can I ask a question, Denise?
Yes.
I'm
after
sorry, Gail.
Discussion, yeah.
Go ahead.
Everybody's
It's
just
frozen.
merging
They
together.
were all the same.
Yeah. Can we split them up into the different components just so that we can have a motion except for each variance? Because I'm okay with the first two, but I would rather see no on the shed.
And Al, you okay with that?
Yes.
I am as well.
All right, so we'll go with parcel first. The variance to create a lot with 8,867 square feet of land, area of 10,000 is required. And do you want, so we'll end up having 3 different motions?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Gail, did we do
Okay.
regional impact on this?
Yes, we
Yes,
did.
we did. Okay, so we have the motion, for the first motion to create a lot with 8,867 square feet of land area where 10,000 square feet is required. We have the motion from Alan, the second from Denise. We're going to do a roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Len?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And I say yes. Okay, the second motion is to create 2 lots with inadequate frontage. 79.19 feet frontage for a proposed lot, and where 100 feet is required, and 88.67 of frontage for the parent lot. Do we have a
Yeah.
motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
And a
second.
second? Okay, and we'll do a roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Len?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And I say yes. And the last lot about the shed, to permit an existing non-conforming shed on proposed lot 28-1 to remain 4.4 feet from the side property line where 15 feet is the minimum required, and 9 feet from the rear property line where 30 feet is required. Motion.
This is Denise. I motion to grant that variance with the stipulation that it's strictly for that shed.
Not a new one, right?
Correct.
Because if they replace it, they'd have to conform.
Correct.
I'll
Okay,
second
we
it.
have a second.
Seconded by Alan.
We're going to do a roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Len?
Yes.
Jason?
Just to clarify, the wording changed it now so that it's specific to that non-conforming shed. Then yes, I'm okay for it.
Okay.
Yes,
Not a new shed.
thank you.
They were proposing a new shed. It was just for that one that's there. We're okay
Yep.
with that?
Yeah,
Okay,
it was.
and
That clarification wasn't there originally, and that's what threw me. So yes, I'm good with this. Thank you.
All right, and I'll say yes as well. So motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're okay. We are on to our next application, which is Matthew Poisson, applicant, and Caitlin Brewster, owner, seeking a variance to allow 2 full-time wait a minute.
No, you're out of order.
Sorry. Yeah, it's out of order. This one is Kinda Abraham, owner, and Christy Witten, applicant, seeking 2 variances to allow for a dog daycare. The first variance required is to allow the dog daycare on a lot totaling 0.266942 acres, whereas 2 acres are required, and allow buildings or structures for the commercial kennel use dog daycare to be located less than the minimum requirement, 100 feet to any lot. This consists of section 5.6 of the Goffstown zoning ordinance. The second variance required is to allow the commercial kennel dog daycare within the commercial zone. This concerns section 2.1 of principal uses, B7 of the Goffstown zoning. Property is located at 27 Mass. And commercial. Identification for regional impact.
Gail, you're really breaking up. Someone running their garbage disposal.
It sounds like.
Hey, Gail, just to help you out a little bit, if you turn off your video, it may fix your cutting in and out problem. We won't be able to see you, but we should be able to hear you.
Okay, how's that?
Much better.
Better.
Okay.
Have we
we'll go with that.
lost Alan? I'm not.
No, I see. Well, I think he left his desk though. And Denise, are you still here?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Can we have a motion from someone regarding regional impact? Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion regarding regional impact?
I'll move no regional impact.
I'll second.
Second?
Second by Denise.
Okay. A roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And yes as well, motion carries. Who is going to present on this application? Do we have Kinda Abraham or Christy Witten to speak?
Christy Witten is on.
Hi, Christy.
Okay. What do you want to tell us about the application?
So we are submitting the application. We are asking for the variance for the size of the lot. We put it under kennel because there's no true state requirements or town, like a doggy daycare doesn't really exist in the zoning. So that's why we did it under the kennel, which Nancy helped with, and we were able to put that together. So we came up with these two, I guess, quote unquote zoning issues, if you will. The nice thing about this property is that it's already fully fenced and it is in a commercial zone. But I think the best part, in my opinion, about the property is that there is an addition to the main structure, which from the Mass Road side looks pretty much just like a single family cape. But on the back side of it, there's an addition, and it's technically an underground addition. So they added on to the basement. And so that would alleviate any noise concerns because it's literally concrete and then basically a little bit larger than basement size windows in the addition area. So so from that perspective, I think that it works for the structure. And then the lot size itself, if we look at other existing daycares or doggy daycares, if you will, the yard space actually is equal to or larger than what most of the facilities have. And it's very common to see these facilities in a commercial location simply because a lot of them actually use warehouse space and have their turnout area or their play yard area on the backside of what would be considered a warehouse space. So this just gives it a little bit of a nicer feel to have, I would say, a much nicer location where we've got the animal hospital next door, which I think is a huge plus, and then really just commercial structures surrounding it.
Is that it? No?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody has questions, I can
Does the board
certainly.
have any questions?
So are there going to be? Oh, I'm
Where
sorry.
are
Go
you
ahead.
in relation? Where
Everybody
are you
raise
in
your
relation
hand.
to where the relation to the neighborhood? Where are the residential homes?
There is one. There's one residential home behind our structure, and it is actually 2 units on one lot. It's 2 homes on one lot. Then we've got a dentist's office. We've got the animal hospital, which I think is fantastic. Directly next door on the Mass Road side, we have, I have to go back and look. It's either a 4 or 5 unit multifamily structure. Then across the street, you've got the laundromat and a hair salon on the opposite side of Mass Road. And then I think if we look in the 200 square foot section, there is one additional abutter that isn't actually a true abutter, but because we looked into the full 200 foot distance, they do become an abutter. And that's also why we brought in the dentist's office.
Okay, Gail, if I may.
Gail, you're muted.
Okay.
Oh. Okay, Gail has called in again.
I'm on the phone again.
Gail's on the phone again. Len has a couple questions.
Okay, Ms. Whitten, how many animals are you talking about capacity for the facility here?
So capacity wise, we would max out between 25 and 30. And it probably would never be all at one time.
And what kind of, is the turnout area you're talking about the fenced area that is behind the buildings and behind the building and behind the parking lot? Is that paved impervious or is that a gravel surface inside the fence there? Do you have any
little bit of
unpaved
both.
turnout area?
So the bulk of it is paved, which would be, it would end up being turfed if we were to get the approvals. Up to the fenced area actually encompasses a 2-car garage. So there is pavement that currently, the way that it stands, you would open a large gate if you were to drive through the fence to get to the garage. So it is paved over to the garage. And then you do have some yard area, which would be to the left of the garage, behind the garage. And then a fenced in concrete area around the pool, which we would also use for the dogs.
So, but right now, if you were to be approved, you would be removing a lot of the impervious, so the animals would have more unpaved area to be exercised on.
Yeah, so the entire area that is currently fenced would remain fenced. The gate would be removed because we would not need to get a car back there to the garage. So that would become just continuous fence. I think it's safer. the concrete or the pavement would not be removed. We would be adding drainage and turf. So an AstroTurf product, which is
AstroTurf over the top of the
correct, because it gives it an adhesive to stick to. Yep. And then the back area to the left side of the garage and the back side would actually remain dirt.
Okay, would the animals be kenneled inside when you're there?
Nope, it'll be, I don't know if the full floor plan came on, but it'll be, this large area will be open play. And it's a very, I don't know where my camera is to show you. So this area here is a large open area. That's the basement addition. I don't know what else to call it, but it's a below grade addition that they did on the back side of the building.
The area that was a salon at one point, I believe.
Exactly, and prior to that, I believe it was a daycare. Yeah, so it's 54 feet long by 18 feet wide. So it's a very large room. So it would be open play. And then we would have 4 areas for boarding.
Would you be offering overnight boarding at this site as well as daycare? Correct.
Yep. Yep. And we would have a very small area for overnight boarding. We would have, it would end up being 5, we would call them luxury kennels, and it would just be, it's not really a crate. It would be actually a wooden structure with no top and bedding and whatnot. And then we have one room that is large. It's 8.5 by 7.5 feet. And we're going to offer to like the local police officers who have dogs. Those dogs are not able to be in scenarios where they can just go to doggy daycare and be boarded because they're specially trained service dogs. And so they have to be kept separately. So we have the room in the facility to be able to take the service dogs and allow them what we would call a luxury room with a bed and a TV, their own space, and then their own turnout time, because they actually can't be turned out with the other dogs either.
One last question. Would you be offering other services as well, bathing, grooming, or anything related?
Yeah, so we're looking into grooming. We do have 2 rooms that would work perfectly for grooming. And then we're also looking into offering training. We actually have been kind of talking to the locals about the program and that sort of thing. And a lot of people have gotten dogs during the COVID pandemic, and they're realizing that they're going to need the training because a lot of dogs are having attachment issues and separation anxiety and things like that. So we've talked to 2 different trainers about offering services, and we would offer them inside in that large 18 by 54 room.
Sounds to me like it's more you've got more of a full-fledged kennel than a daycare, and frankly, I have some concerns about the number of dogs that you're talking about and the fact that that area around there is not entirely residential. If you take about a 500-foot radius out from the place, you've got a substantial number of residential properties in that radius. So those are my concerns. So I yield the floor to anyone else with questions.
So concerns in the respect of the space, or I guess what would the
space, potential noise, seems like an awful lot in the fact that the current zoning for kennels is 2 acres. To go from 2 acres all the way down to a hair over 1/4 of an acre seems like a stretch to me.
Yeah, so it would never be, I think if you visited other facilities, you would note that there's very little outdoor noise, but the dogs get turned out in very small groups. So there would never be 30 dogs outside at a time. It would probably be groups of 10 that would be turned out because we've got the large indoor space as well. So they would have free play inside as well as outside. and we have the garage space, which is in the fenced area, which is 23 by 19. That would actually become the covered area for the dogs, because we have some, obviously there's some dogs who are a little finicky and don't like to go out during inclement weather. And so we would have the ability to still bring them out in inclement weather and have it be a covered area.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Gail? Hold on just a minute. Okay. Can you hear me, Gail?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can everyone hear Gail?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. My concerns, I have a lot of concerns about this because the acreage is so much less than what is allowed. It's a big difference. And when you're talking about having 25 to 30 dogs, and I know they're saying that they may never have them at that time, but if they're licensed for that many, once they've got,
well, there's no licensing laws.
That many at a time. And I don't think the space is big enough, and that's not necessarily part of our purview. However, it is part of our purview that, for me anyway, the lot size is far too small for a doggy daycare with all the add-ons that they're considering, such as the grooming and the training and things like that. You made a comment about it not being unusual to be in a commercial space for doggy daycares, but they're usually in a warehouse. And this is so far from a warehouse as far as space for 25 to 30 dogs. And I'm concerned about the noise that even 10 dogs outside together, because they don't necessarily know each other, that they could make and really disrupt the neighborhood. And our concern, you know, the zoning ordinances are there for a reason, and it's part of it is to protect the abutters. And I think those are my bigger concerns right now.
I don't know how to, but I am actually the abutter, one of the abutters. So let me know, please, when I can comment as well.
Okay. Try *9 on your phone. Okay, that worked. So does your phone end with the last 4 digits of 9402?
Yeah.
Okay, terrific.
And what's your name?
And so,
Your name, please. Sorry, my name is Angela Carson.
Okay.
I own the property at 17 Laurier Street, which directly is the lot with the 2 houses that goes to the corner of Laurier Street in Roosevelt. Now, I have a lot of the similar concerns that have already been mentioned. And one thing I'd like to point out is that currently, with the expansion of the animal hospital and construction, it has been a huge interference this past year with the traffic, especially being right off the corner of Mass Road. It's a very hard street to turn off of to get on Mass Road as it is. And if 1 or 2 dogs at the animal hospital bark already, it sets off all the dogs in the neighborhood. So I can only imagine with a competing dog daycare, dog kennel, however you want to phrase it, across the street from an animal hospital in what I feel is really just that corner is commercial, aside from a very low dentist office. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but they have a nice large parking lot and a few patients at a time. And once you go past that, it's all residential. And I feel it'll be very disruptive. The other concern I have, and I am speaking for my husband, who unfortunately couldn't be here right now as well, is we have elderly tenants too, which are the closest to the property. It's all pavement for the most part with an in-ground pool. So I understand that, I believe I heard that AstroTurf was going to be put down, but I feel that it's just a busy location to have more animals treated and housed, and that it's going to provide a lot of traffic with the animals being walked and perhaps over by the fields where the kids play down the road. And it's just going to be not a great idea in general.
So the animals, I completely understand what you're saying. The animals would never be walked, so they would not leave the premise.
Yeah, oh, excuse me. Christy is speaking now. Is that Gail who asked the question?
It is.
I think Angela had asked.
Yeah. Christy, you just have to, all the questions and comments need to go through the chair.
Okay.
So you just need to be recognized by the chair and then. So Gail, are you all set now?
I'm all set. Thank you.
I have a question. Does Gail know whose hands are raised?
I do not.
Well, Angela from 17 Laurier Street, she is the one who raised her hand, and she was the one who was speaking just a few minutes ago.
But several board members have their hands raised as well.
Nancy, on your screen in the lower under each person's, on their left side is a hand, yellow hand. That's when they raise a hand, they want to talk. So
no, I know. I thought she was referring to, I thought Denise was referring to folks who are on the phone, which Gail is on the phone right now. But yes, Jason has his hand raised.
Go ahead, Jason.
Thanks, Gail. So yeah, I walked over there today too, walked around property a couple of times, and the first thing that I saw when I parked at the corner there was the neighbor's house behind it. That's really close to the property line, and even a couple of dogs barking, in a in a commercial setting is a bit of a challenge. I know when I bring my dogs for boarding, I can generally hear them down the road. So I suspect that there'll be, there's a reason why the ordinance says 2 acres. And is the fence. Unbelievably or not, my dog could probably jump that.
That fence would all be replaced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, none of that would stay. It's in really bad shape.
Yeah, my biggest concern is the proximity of the neighbors. The residential apartment building next door is above the fence. So even if you did put a tall fence there are neighbors above you that would be subjected to barking as well. I understand, the desire to do it. I have no problems with the other services. If it was a commercial place to bring your dog in for grooming, and hey, that would probably be a fine place. But overnight boarding, multiple dogs out there barking, I go back to the acreage as being a big part of that. Thank you.
Alan, you have your hand raised as well.
Yeah, I have a question of the whatever site plan is in the package. That's so inaccurate. I would request, because you'll have to go to the planning board if this is approved by the board. Is that correct, Nancy?
Yes, it will.
And I think there's some inaccuracies in the plan. I think some of the parking that's shown on Roosevelt Street is actually in the right of way. As shown
That
on
is
the,
correct. That would be removed.
you know what? I have the floor, ma'am. And I think that I would vote to require a site plan be performed in such a fashion that we know exactly what's there and exactly what's planned. Because on the abutters property line, it looks like somebody has overdrawn something to show something different than what was on the original plan. And so
There are a lot of
that
strange,
causes me a little angst.
yeah. There are a lot of strange parking spaces in that little section of Roosevelt Street. Are you all set now, Alan?
Yes.
Hey, Denise, you also have your hand raised?
Yes, I have two questions. Maybe a strange one, but what's the plan with the dog waste? And that's to the applicant?
Well, I told Christy a few moments ago that all questions have to go through the chair.
Sorry.
So she's
And I
doing what I
question where the
asked her to
dog
do.
waste is going and how it's gonna be handled.
Gail, did you hear Denise's?
I did. I don't mind if Christie answers that, and then I have a comment that I want to make.
And I'm
Okay.
not done. I have other questions.
And
Do
me
you want to do
next.
all your questions and I can answer them all at once?
That's fine.
No, the other one won't be going to you. It'll be a comment.
Oh, okay. So the dog waste, absolutely. So the dog waste has to be removed separately. It does not go in a regular trash receptacle. We already went through the sewer department, got that side of everything approved. And so it's actually a separate receptacle that gets picked up separately as waste. And it does not go out with the regular garbage.
Can I have that at my house?
I know. I need it at mine too, don't worry.
Okay, and just a general comment for everybody. I know everybody's concerned about the size. There is a doggy daycare kennel in the center of Grassmere, and that lot is 0.3468 acres.
That's not legal.
Well, okay. Just gotta
So
sign
please
it.
don't use that. That's been an
We granted
ongoing.
them
Okay,
zoning issue.
okay, well, I just wanted to make sure, because
Yeah,
I
don't use that as an example.
Sorry, okay. I'm done.
Okay, am I next, Gail?
Gail, Len has his hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the question would be, and I noticed in her application that the Grassmere facility was cited. I'm just wondering what services they offer in Grassmere beyond, because I see a big difference between a groomer where the animals come in, services are performed, and they're picked up in, 4 or 6 hours or whatever, versus it's a facility. If you figure it's doggy daycare for working people, you're figuring 8 hours a day, you're talking overnight boarding, you're talking other services. I share Jason's concern. I think for what is planned to be offered here, you're talking about basically running a full-fledged kennel, whether or not you've got chain link runs or anything, it still amounts to a kennel. And I just do not think the size of the property is adequate for, 20, 25, 30 dogs is too many dogs on a site that small, I think. That's it. Not as much a question as a comment.
Madam Chair?
And
Madam Chair,
Alan
I have my
and
hand up.
Jason, you both have your hands raised, so
Okay.
you decide who's going first.
Alan, please, after you.
The one in Grassmere that was mentioned in the application, we granted a variance for those as a grooming place to get your animal groomed, not a daycare. That was granted by variance.
Those conditions have not been satisfied.
That's your problem.
That's why I don't want to talk about that site.
I could chuckle.
Funny.
I understand that, Nancy. If they are not if there is anything, well, first of all, if it's still an open and ongoing matter, then we really shouldn't be discussing it. And so I understand that. Jason, you have something to say?
Yeah, so I have a comment then a question. So I suspect, and the members who've been around longer than I would probably be able to answer this better, but if with the way that this is being requested, if we grant the variance as a kennel, then it is being, even if it's called a doggy daycare or whatever, at any point in time, it could be run as a kennel, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
No.
that's what
No.
Who said no? Oh, sorry.
I did. Madam Chair,
Uh-huh.
this is Nancy. Can I make a comment to Jason's
Yep,
statement?
please do.
So whatever, if the board votes to grant the request, then the applicant and anyone in the future, if they decide to continue on with this use, then it has to be within the constraints of what is presented to the board tonight. So if someone in the future buys the property and wants to operate it in a different manner than what was presented tonight, I would have to make the decision whether that's a significant or substantial change to what was presented to the board, because that could make a difference in whether or not the board grants or denies a variance request. So it can't be substantially different. Does that help?
It does. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
clarifying. Now back to the question, and back to the question of waste. So you're going to, and this is to the applicant, Gail. So you're going to put down an AstroTurf, so fake turf, that assumedly would be hosed down and whatnot. Is there going to be a drainage put in to catch that from the neighbors' properties?
There's interior drainage, but not exterior drainage. So the waste would be picked up, and yes, there are sanitary measures that are taken to clean the turf. But then to the left side of the garage and the back side would remain dirt.
Okay.
So it would just be that area that currently is the extension of what I would call the parking area that allowed cars to get back to the garage, because the garage is in the fenced area. So just that area that's currently paved would become turf.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Gail or Nancy, can you?
Oh, yes,
Yeah, go
Gail,
ahead.
yes, Len, go ahead.
It just strikes me, and having done a bit of research on it, I'm not sure how much we want to get into this area, because even with Nancy's explanation of how it would have to remain substantially what is approved, some research on state laws say there is no in-state law that I could find on some quick research. There are no standards for commercial kennels. There is no licensing requirement for commercial kennels. There is no square footage requirement per dog for commercial kennel. It's a very ill-defined area in state law, and I'm not sure that without some clear standards for the zoning enforcement officer to go by, that it would be a good idea to venture into this area.
I agree with you, Len.
Gail, Alan has raised his hand.
Go ahead, Alan.
I just find it, I find the site inappropriate. Excuse me. That's my opinion based upon the discussion tonight and the presentation.
I didn't quite get what you said, Alan.
I said the use is inappropriate for this location as presented.
I agree. I personally think that it is more than just a conflict with the zoning ordinance, and I think it's very much against the public interest, and very much the spirit of the ordinance is not observed in this by any means. I feel very strongly about that.
Gail, Len also has his hand raised.
Oh, that was from before. No,
Okay, well, take
no
your hand,
further
take your hand
comments.
down. Take your hand down.
Just did.
Okay. Okay, do we have anybody from the public that's looking to speak? Or we've already had that, right? We've already opened to the public?
Yes, we had the woman at 17 Laurier Street. Alan,
Is there anybody else?
I'll check, but Alan has raised his hand.
Okay, Alan, what's up?
I did?
Well, you
Yeah,
haven't taken your
I
hand
thought I
down.
took it down. I'm sorry. I do
It's all
not
right.
have a question. I'm still learning how to work this thing.
Yeah, so am I. Now, I did not write down Angela's, and I didn't catch her last name. We have someone who raised their hand from last four digits of phone number 9402. Angela, is that you?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. Did you have any additional questions, comments?
I think that the general response is similar to mine. I think that if these dogs aren't going to be walked, especially being confined to a small lot, it's just unfair to the dogs as well, especially without real grass and that sanitary aspect. And just on I'm a dog owner. A lot of us own dogs in this neighborhood and love them, but we have seen quite a few just with the expansion of the parking lot at the animal hospital get loose and almost hit on Mass Road. So I feel like that is also something that makes me very nervous, aside from all the practical details as well. So I think that was just the last thing I just wanted to say.
Thank you. We still have, looks like Kenneth Russo, last four digits 0495. I'm not seeing any activity, and it appears that, are you there, Mr. Russo? You can hit *9 on your phone if you would like to raise your hand. Then I know that you can hear me out there.
Nobody.
I'm not seeing anything, Gail.
Okay. Then let's close the public hearing. And if the applicant has any last comments to make before the board enters deliberations. Hello?
Anyone have any comments, board members? Jason, could you unmute and?
No, I have no comments.
Okay, thank you. Gail can't hear your nod.
Alan, do you have any last comments?
No, I'm all set there. Thank you.
Denise?
I'm all set.
Glenn?
None here, thank you.
Okay. And Christy, do you have any last comments?
I mean, a couple. I had edited the site plan based on what I was asked to do. The site plan was provided to me from, I'm assuming, what was done for the existing hair salon. I made the changes that were noted specifically because the parking spaces were too close to Roosevelt Street, and we did not want people backing onto Roosevelt Street from the parking lot. So we changed it so that it is in fact just a drop off. You would head in from Roosevelt and head out onto Roosevelt. So those changes were made because they were, it was noted that that was not appropriate the way that it was originally set up. And I mean, just as far as the indoor pen area. I've taken my dogs to doggy daycare for years, and an 18 by 54 room is a very large area for them to run and play. And the locations that my dogs go to are not any larger. And the dogs are not walked off site. I don't think I would be okay with that, to be honest. So I don't know of any doggy daycare that takes their pets off site.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
One thing we haven't done is to address the variance criteria as you included them in your application. Do you want to review them for us, or would you like me to read them into the record?
I think they're stated right on, I can read them or you can read them, whatever's easier.
You can read them, go ahead.
So it's just applicant seeks 2 variances to allow for a doggy daycare. The first variance required is to allow the dog daycare on a lot totaling 0.266942 acres, whereas 2 acres are required to allow buildings or structured for the commercial use. To be located less than the minimum requirement of 100 feet to any lot line. This concerns section 5.6 of the Goffstown zoning ordinance. The second variance required is to allow commercial kennel dog daycare in the commercial zone. This concerns section 3.11 table of principal use of the Goffstown zoning ordinance. The property is located at 727 Mast Road, map 15, lot 212, zoned commercial.
Okay, that's not what I was talking about, though. What I was talking about were your comments where it says granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because, and then there were a total of 5 criteria that you responded to.
Your application, Christy, do you have a copy of it with you?
Yeah, so we have the 2 applications. So granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because the existing facility lends itself perfectly to a doggy daycare.
Could you? I'm not hearing what you're saying.
Could you speak facing your microphone, Christy? When you turn your head off to the side, we can't hear you very well.
Okay, I turned my volume up too, so that might help. So it is granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because the existing facility lends itself perfectly to a doggy daycare. The entire play yard is fully fenced with an oversized garage contained within the fence to allow for shaded and protected play from the elements. The lot size is adequate to allow for plenty of room for the dogs to play. The outdoor yard space would have improvements such as new fence enclosure and shrubs to protect the property line and add a sound buffer. Granting the variance would do substantial justice because local families in the area are in need of a safe, convenient daycare setting for their pets. Having the animal hospital next door is an added layer of comfort for many families. Value of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because we would be making substantial aesthetic improvements to the building to improve the value of the structure as well as the value of the surrounding properties.
Okay, you didn't include anything regarding hardship.
What question number is that?
Can you tell us what the special conditions are of your property that distinguish it from other properties in the area that resulted in the unnecessary hardship for this application?
I'm not quite understanding your question.
Well, if you look at number 5 on in your application under the hardship criteria, 5A, owing to special conditions of the property, hardship is determined by the special conditions of the property to show that it would result in an unnecessary hardship if you were not granted this variance.
So you see on your application, Christy, 5A, and then there's Roman numeral 1. That's what the chair is referring to.
Yeah, so I guess, are you asking what the hardship would be to the surrounding properties or to the doggy daycare?
For the for the property that the proposed doggy daycare would go on.
I guess I don't believe there would be a hardship. I believe the hardship would be if it's not, because so many families have become dog owners over the last year with COVID and having the ability to be home to train a pet and whatnot, and now going back to work. I think that the hardship would be that those families would not have a location to take their dog during the day. There's no other doggy daycare in the area.
Okay, so that what you're saying then is that there are no special conditions of the property itself?
No, not that I can think of. I mean, the property itself would be improved upon aesthetically, but nothing on the property would be changed aside from updating aesthetics and that sort of thing. We wouldn't be adding an addition. We wouldn't be removing any structures or anything like that.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Nancy?
If I may, I'm not sure the applicant quite understands that question, so can I try to clarify?
Oh, please.
Okay. So, Christy, the specific variance request that we're talking about right now has to do with the 2-acre requirement. So that's what you need to keep in mind when you're answering all of these questions. So when we get to question number 5, that has to do with variance. A variance, it's a 2-parter. So you'll see A is broken down into 2 questions, Roman numeral 1 and Roman numeral 2. So you answered Roman numeral 2, but Roman numeral 1 talks about no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision. So in this case, the ordinance provision is the requirement that kennels be located on lots 2 acres in size at a minimum, and of course in the agricultural districts. But we're really focused on the 2-acre requirement. And then, so how does that specific application of the minimum 2-acre requirement create a hardship to this particular property and your proposed use?
So I guess just to clarify, so you're asking why I feel that it works on less than 2 acres?
Well, you have to think of it in terms of a hardship. So you're saying that if the variance is not granted to allow you to locate this doggy daycare on a lot that's less than 2 acres in size, it creates a hardship, and that hardship has to be based on, this specific property. So in other words, you have to relate it to the characteristics of this property. So, I don't know how else to explain it. But I think you have to compare this property to other properties in the area. Think about how they're sized, how they're located, what surrounds it, and think of it in those terms as how it relates to your request for the doggy daycare on a lot that's less than 2 acres in size.
So I think that the hardship, I mean, I guess I don't look at it as a hardship, but I think that if I'm understanding it correctly, if we look at the other doggy daycares and compare it to, I guess, kennels, we're not really a kennel. And so I do feel that there is a difference in that. If it was a kennel, if we were breeding animals, If we were housing animals around the clock, I absolutely would be in agreement that we would need 2 acres, because I think that that would just make sense. I think that from a day-to-day daycare scenario where dogs are coming, 2, maybe 3 times a week to get in some active play and be able to socialize the animals, I think that the space is adequate for that scenario. And I understand that when we're looking at it, there's no true state requirements and there's no town requirements for a quote unquote doggy daycare. So we're looking at this as a kennel. But the truth of the matter is, it would be very different than a kennel. There would not be, there in fact would not be kennels at all. It would be open play area on the interior as well as the exterior. And so I do believe that it makes more sense to have it in a smaller lot with the larger interior square footage for the dogs to play year round, where we do, we live in New England, so we have a significant amount of time where we have inclement weather. And so it does allow for us to give the dogs adequate exercise and keep them inside when needed during inclement weather. I also think that the benefit of the location is that it is in fact on one of the main entry and exit ways in and out of the town, as well as some of the surrounding towns being, New Boston, Ware, and Dunbarton. So it allows for very easy access for families to drop off and pick up their dogs when they're going to and from work.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing if I didn't already do that. And the board is going to deliberate. So do we have any discussion? Or does somebody want to make a motion to initiate a discussion?
Don't everyone, Denise, Gail, Denise has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Denise.
But you're muted, Denise.
Okay, sorry. Christie's closing, she said it was mostly going to be a doggy daycare. Unfortunately, in her paperwork, she stated, or in her previous conversations, that she is going to have overnight. I think it's limited. I'm not against a daycare. I think it's a good idea. I think it's something the town needs. However, unfortunately, she didn't meet the criteria. And I don't see the hardship spelled out properly for me. And it's too bad, because it's a residential house in a commercial property.
Denise?
Commercial zone, yes.
Gail says you're coming in broken up. I can hear you fine, but Gail is having difficulty. Do you want to, Gail, do you want Denise to repeat her comments?
If she can.
Unfortunately, I don't think she met the criteria for hardship. I think it's something that's needed in this town. I believe having a residential house in a commercial development, it is commercial. There is a veterinary clinic right next door. It would be a good place for a doggy daycare. Kennel, I question. Doggy daycare, I don't.
I kind of disagree with you, because although it's nice to have the veterinarian nearby, I don't think, I think it does need to be on a larger lot and possibly not in a commercial zone, especially on such a small lot, because we have, in this particular case, we have abutters to be concerned with the number of dogs, the noise, and just the size of the lot compared to what is actually required is pretty significant. And I said this already. So I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on that one.
Oh, that's fine. I don't believe she meets the criteria, unfortunately, anyways. So.
No, but she admitted there's no hardship with the land. And so there's that. And I also think that it doesn't meet the public interest or the spirit of the ordinance.
Gail, can I go through the list of members with hands raised?
I'll make a motion to deny.
Let them speak.
Pardon me?
Just pick one and let them speak.
Okay, Alan, you have your hand raised.
Yep, I'll make a motion to deny the requested variance.
Before we move on, I just want to make sure that the other folks didn't have anything else to say before the motion is finalized. Len and Jason, you both have your hands raised as well.
I will second Alan's motion with the comment, good idea, wrong site. I think it's, as Denise said, it's something that the town could use, but the site is inappropriate for what's being proposed. And I agree with Gail as far as the spirit of the ordinance. And I mean, there's a problem also that it's not entirely commercial area. You're talking about a mixture of commercial and residential around it. As they say, a different site and it would be a different story, but I second Alan's motion.
Thank you for the second, Len.
Jason?
And you said Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna agree with everybody else. I mean, I also gonna add like the definition of kennel actually includes all the things that she wants to do. So raised, trained, and or boarded. So that's kind of the exact definition of the word kennel. So I agree. I think it's a great idea, but it's just not the right place for it.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just a point of clarification. Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention to Alan's motion, but we have two separate variance requests, and it all has to do with requirements for a kennel. And the first one is a variance to operate the kennel or doggy daycare in the commercial district. And then the second is to operate a kennel on a lot that is less than 2 acres in size, and to allow the buildings or structures for the kennel use doggy daycare to be located less than the minimum requirement of 100 feet to any lot line.
So that's kind of 3 different variances there.
Well, yes, they're all wrapped into the requirements in the zoning ordinance for a commercial kennel. The last one that I read is all part of one requirement in the zoning ordinance, and the first one is based on the table of uses. But there really hasn't been much said about the setback requirements. The conversation certainly has captured the location, being in the commercial district and also on a lot less than 2 acres in size, but we should probably touch upon the setback requirement as well. And then just consider how the board wants to handle the, I included them in my staff report as broke them down into 2 separate variance requests, which is how we also wrote up the notice.
Okay. I do think that the discussion included talking about it being less than 2 acres, but I also think it, in talking about the small size of the lot compared to the required 2 acres, I think that would also encompass the minimum requirement of 100 feet to any lot line. Alan, was your motion to include all 3 of those requests?
Yes, but I would also note that the table of uses requires to have a kennel in the agricultural zone, a special exception. Also, that I see no application for a special exception required for a kennel in the agricultural zone. Would it also not apply to any zone?
Alan?
Well, no special exception because this isn't an agricultural zone.
Right. So my determination was to handle it as a variance since it's not a use that's permitted in this zoning district. It's not that it's permitted by special exception. It's just not permitted at all. So that was a decision that I had made as how the applicant should proceed.
Okay, you're good. All right, thank you.
Okay. So Alan's motion was to deny the two variances to allow for a doggy daycare, one on a lot less than 2 acres, and the other one less than the 100 feet minimum requirement to any lot line. And then also to deny the commercial kennel or doggy daycare within the commercial zone. Is that correct, Alan?
Yes.
Okay. And Len, is that what your understanding was?
I'll concur with that, yes.
Thank you.
We'll do a roll call. We'll do a roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Len?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And Gail, I say yes. That 5-0, the variance requests have been denied. Is anybody still there? It went awfully silent.
We're still here.
Okay. Are we still there? I just heard a beep.
I did too, and I'm not sure who dropped out.
We've all been beeped.
Okay, so let's move. Shall we move on to the next application, which is the last one before we tend to zoning board business? We have Brian Nawaj. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, Nawoj, owner applicant seeking a variance to convert an existing 4-family building into a 5-family building, making an existing non-conforming structure more non-conforming due to maximum density allowance for multifamily dwellings in the residential 1 district. This concerns section 4.3, table of dimensional regulations of the Goffstown ordinance. The property is located at 16 East Union Street, map 34, lot 17, zoned residential 1. And I will entertain a motion regarding regional impact, please.
I motion there's no regional impact.
Second. Hi, Alan.
Okay, Denise and Alan, and we'll do a roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Denise?
Aye.
Len?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And Gail says yes, we have no regional impact. And if we have the applicant or the applicant's representative, would you introduce yourself, please, and tell us about your application?
Hold on just a minute. I don't see Brian on here. Maybe
Maybe his was the beep we heard.
maybe.
He was on earlier.
Yes, he was. Let me see if I can reach him.
Hey, Nancy, while you're doing that, hey, Gail, just to clarify, this is not the last one before the other business. There was
Yes.
one other one after, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes, there is.
That.
Okay.
I realize that.
Hang in there, guys. We saw you.
I muted myself, Gail, so you wouldn't hear my conversation.
Oh, okay. Just
So,
wanted to make sure it was so silent. I was afraid I got this.
Yeah, no, I didn't get a chance to follow through. I had to hang up, so I'm gonna try again.
Should we go on to the last application while you try to reach this person?
I think they would like that very much.
Okay, we're gonna go on to the next application and we'll put, this multifamily in, to the back of the line. We will go on to, here we go. Matthew Porcelain applicant and Caitlin Brewster, owner, are seeking a variance to allow 2 full-time, non-resident on-site employees, whereas only 1 full-time equivalent person.
Gail, we lost you. Can you hear us?
Ain't technology grand?
It is wonderful. When are we going to be able to start meeting in person?
Soon, I hope.
I think we have some clients on the phone.
The dogs are scratching their
That's
tags.
our dog in the back. Sorry.
I thought you guys were sleeping on the floor.
Sometimes we might as well.
Well, I certainly commend your fortitude for staying on the call.
Thank you.
Patience required.
All right, let's see. Okay. So conversation. Did we lose everybody?
We're still here.
I'm ready to say Len can take over.
Except that kind of
Have
leaves
another
us
have
without-
another drink of water.
I've gone through 3 glasses of water.
The 3 of us are a quorum.
What's in the glass? I want to know what's in the glass. I can tell this is
Don't I
water.
wish it were vodka, Alan?
Well, it's been 3 full ones, so I think it's water.
Somehow I don't think we're a quorum anyway, because we've lost Jason too.
No, I guess we did.
No, Jason's back.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Jason,
still here.
don't leave. We need you as a quorum.
I just needed more water. And it is water.
That's we just had that discussion about mine.
I heard. I had my wireless headset on, so it's all batteried up now, so we're good to go. I could go for another 4 or 5. Never mind.
No. You only after you sat through one that goes until 12:45 a.m. I have.
I haven't done that late.
I know that Alan has done some of those too over the years. Oh, Nancy's back.
Nancy, we lost Gail.
Sounds like there's an awful lot of chit chatter. Well, I was trying to contact an applicant.
We lost Gail.
Yes, and I was trying to continue with the next meeting, but nobody was hearing me. But I know I was on.
We hear you now.
Len, you have your hand raised. Is there something you would like to?
Nope, that's
comment
just a
on?
leftover. Let me cancel it.
Okay. Gail, you made a motion. Was it for Well, I see that we already made a motion for no regional impact, and that was voted on, and the motion carried.
Which one are you talking about?
Oh, yes.
Do we move on to Orchard Street?
While you were trying to reach Brian Nawaz, I moved on to Matthew Poisson.
Yes.
Tried to get a motion for regional
impact.
Do we have a motion for regional impact for?
I motion there's no regional impact.
Seconded by Alan.
Did you hear that, Gail?
Barely.
Barely.
You're fading out.
Okay.
Seconded by Alan.
Do we have a second?
Alan.
Denise made the motion and Alan seconded. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Denise?
Aye.
Len?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And Gail says yes. All in favor. Okay, do we have the applicant with us?
Yes. You
Thank
do.
you, guys.
I think they're asleep.
No, the dogs are asleep.
Should have let us go first.
The dog looks really comfortable. I
Oh,
wish
yeah.
I was there right now.
They're passed out.
Both of them.
What they want to do with their application and their variance criteria.
Can you hear the chair okay?
Yes.
Oregon, yeah.
Sort of. Okay. It sounds a little muffled. Len, do you want to explain it to them, or do you want me to?
Why don't you go ahead, Nancy?
Okay. The chair was just asking you to just give a brief synopsis of what it is that you're requesting, and then if you have, do you have a copy of your zoning board application with you?
I do not have it in front of me.
Okay, do you have it available? Is it in the house?
No, this isn't it. I do not have the application. I'd have to try to dig it up, but I was looking for it earlier. I couldn't find it.
Okay, so the chair, well, I don't want to speak for her. She'll tell you, but normally what that happens, she'll read your answers, your questions and the answers into the record. So if you want to get started with just explaining to the board generally what it is that you're requesting, and then Gail, can you hear all this?
I can hear fine.
Okay.
I can hear you. Everybody else is a little more quiet.
Okay. So the applicant cannot put his fingers on his application, so I insinuated that you would be more than willing to read his answers, the questions and his answers into the record.
Not a problem.
Okay, go ahead, folks.
All right, so basically what I'm asking is, so I have a small landscape business that I have, a dump truck and 2 landscape trailers, and what I want to do is have 2 employees be able to park on the property. So that's one of the variances, is the request for a second non-resident employee be able to park on the property instead of just one. And then I'd like to be able to park, because I have 2 driveways. So I have a second driveway that I'd like to park the jump truck and the 2 trailers. And then I'd like to put some like screening, as in fencing in front of the house and then along all the abutting neighbors that it's going to affect. And, it's going to just basically barricade me in so nobody sees me, and then just do like a 7 to 5 where, it's just basically to park my stuff. I'm not going to have any landscape material. And when I leave, I'll be able to park the 2 vehicles that my employees have in that area. So it won't be on the road or in my top driveway. And, I'm not going to have any landscape materials like mulch or stone or anything. It's just strictly to just park my trucks and trailers. So that's basically what I'm asking for, is the second variant, to be able to have a second employee, and then to just park my vehicles there with the proper screening, like fencing, so I don't have people hearing me or seeing my trucks. It's kind of, respectable.
Okay,
That's it.
Thank you.
so I guess I have a question.
Sure.
Is, as a home-based business, what part of this business is done at home? Or is it just, I only understood that you were just doing the parking of the trucks and things?
So, I mean, I do like invoices on my computer, like I'm sitting at now, but there won't be really any business being the only thing that's happening is just parking my vehicles and then having my employees be able to park, or well, a second employee be able to park on the property and just go to work, from 7 to 5, and that's all I'm trying to do.
Okay. So your home property is kind of the gathering spot for the employees to go out
Yes.
to do whatever work it is that you do.
Yeah, it'd be like the home base.
Okay.
And it's where all paperwork is done and
Yeah, so I do all my estimates,
contracts.
and invoicing, and all that at home in my room here, on my computer.
Okay, thank you. Does any of the board members have any questions for the applicant?
Alan has his hand raised.
I just want to ask the question of the applicant is, is he going to park in that second driveway that leads to the basement garage?
Yes.
I think that's what he was saying.
Yes.
So it's actually somewhat screened from the street because it's actually depressed in the ground.
And there is 2 big mature
Yeah.
trees in the front as well. There's that wall, and then I have a big evergreen, and then another tree also that kind of, screens me away from the neighbors. Well, the front of the house view anyway.
You mean the one with the orange garage, portable garage in the front yard next to the street?
So he would still see me on from his backyard, and I would like to fence it off so he doesn't have to see me at all, and then maybe put some fencing in the front just to keep people from seeing the trucks, or just to stay clean and respectable, really.
Well, there's a lot of neighbors in your neighborhood, and by explanation, that have the same circumstance you have.
Yes.
They don't have any variance required. They park trucks. They're doing the same kind of things you are, or they might not be. They might be carpenters, or they might be something else, but they're there with their trucks and their ladders and all their equipment in their yard. So any screening you can do would be greatly appreciated. But I, for one, would not make it part of any variance to be granted to you.
Two questions, if I may, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you return to home base at any point during the day, or do you and your crew just go out, work all day, and then you're only coming back and forth once? Is there any in and out traffic during the business day?
So generally, no. The only circumstances is, let's say I forgot a tool, like a hedge trimmer that I might need, then yeah, I would have to return, but it would be a quick in and out type of thing. But that would be the only circumstance I can think of, because typically you go out for the day, you do your jobs, and you come back. So whatever time that is, between 3 and 5 usually. And if I were to be going to the property again, through the day, it would be just to grab a tool that I might have forgot, and that would really be it.
Okay, and the other question is that I drove by your site the other day. I see you have both of the trailers on site at the moment. How large is the truck that you're talking about? Is it the pickup type dump bed? Is it somewhat larger, like an 8-wheel or a 10-wheel dump? Or how large a truck are you talking?
So it's your typical dump truck. It's a Ford F-450, diesel dump truck. It has the dually in the back. It has 6 total wheels. So it's your typical dump truck. It's not like a 10-yard. It's only a 6-yard dump truck. So basically what you see riding around everywhere in Goffstown, smaller typical truck.
Okay, and the last question, what were you thinking of by way of screening? I see you've got some chain link around the property now. You're talking about like 6-foot stockade or something like that to go around the area?
So I mean, I could do the stockade, or I can go with a vinyl, 6x8 vinyl, something that looks nice. So I would probably go with that route, or I mean, the stockade would work, but I would prefer the white vinyl fencing.
So we just bought this house back in November, so that linked fence was already there. So we haven't really done anything in terms of fencing around here. So.
Okay, well, again, that's, I agree with Alan. I think anything you can do, screening would be good.
Yes, that's the applicant speaking, Gail.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll lower my hand because that's it for me.
Anybody else on the board have questions or comments?
I do. I'm sorry, I'm looking for my hand here. There we go.
Denise does.
I don't have any issues with this. I'm curious on why it's been brought to our attention. Is there a specific reason, or is
No,
it because
Mr. Poisson just called me, and he was being very honest. He wanted to know if he could have his landscape business operated out of his house. So it wasn't a complaint that was generated. He just, it was just conversation that we had, and I asked him a few questions and made the determination that I think it would be reasonable to look at it as a home occupation, but then there were these other requirements. So we went through each and every one of them, and that's how he came here tonight.
Well, I commend him.
I do too, and I did.
Thank you very much.
So the reasoning basically is because, it's in my understanding, it's a commercial business in a residential area, and I'm trying to have a successful business and try to go about things the right way, because right now I'm in the prime time of my business, and let's say I get a notice that I have to move my stuff, and that doesn't work for me. So
well, smart. You're smart.
This to me is the right way to do things, just so I don't have any issues and I'm legal and I, that type of thing.
Again, we commend you for that.
That's
Yes,
definitely
we
the right way to do things.
Yeah, I don't want you guys knocking on my door.
I don't want to either.
I have no further questions.
Okay. I had no questions either. I did have a concern about why the variance, but I do understand that it's necessary because that is his kind of hub of meeting, and it's going to be his business address for mail, things like that. So like he says, to do it above board and get the documentation that he needs to be able to go ahead with it, and the permit is a wise choice. I appreciate that.
And
go ahead.
sorry, Gail, I should have raised my hand. Just to clarify, the variance request is to allow a second non-resident employee to report to the property, and then in the zoning ordinance or the home occupation requirements, there is with respect to this type of business, it does give the zoning board the ability to require or approve any type of screening that they find appropriate for, the use and the location.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Poisson, you don't have your application, right?
No, I don't have it in front of me. It must be in my email somewhere, but I went through the process and I had a little bit of a hard time with it. So, I mean,
all right, that's fine. I'm asking because we need to review the variance criteria, you know, the ones where you wrote the answers to those 5 questions.
Yes.
The variance would not be contrary to the public interest. Would you like me to read your answers into the record since you don't have your application?
If you don't mind.
Okay. Would not be contrary to the public interest because it will not alter the characteristics of the neighborhood or threaten the health, safety, or welfare of the general public because of the screening and fencing that would be applied to the property and the property being used for parking purposes only. The spirit of the ordinance is observed because the provisions will not alter the health, safety, welfare of the community by fencing in parking to keep area neat and prevent noise from abutting neighbors. This will also give ample room to keep truck trailers off the road at all times. Substantial justice, it would allow hidden and brush cut landscaping to have a central location to operate from. Also, having a variance would give a peace of mind being parked legally on the property. Surrounding property values will not be diminished because the goal is to improve the overall appearance at the 46 Orchard Street property by maintaining the lot, removing unsightly trees, vines, and installing appropriate fencing and not causing excess noises or issues to the neighborhood. Regarding hardships, he said he won't be altering the property in a way that changes the dynamics of the neighborhood or property. The only changes would be privacy fences to conceal trailers and trucks. And their use is reasonable because he'd only be using the property to park trucks and trailers for his business. So that is that. Do we have any more comments from the board before I open it to the public?
I don't have any.
No.
No for Alan.
Denise?
You're mute.
All set, thank you.
I'm gonna open the hearing to the public. If we have anybody online, Nancy?
I don't see anyone online. It looks like,
Okay.
yeah, no, it does not appear that we have anybody online.
Okay, so the public hearing is closed and the board can enter deliberation. Do we have discussion or a motion?
Discussion, please.
Go.
We never did ask the applicant, you know, just having 2 cars, does that mean he has going to have just 2 employees?
That's what it
Yes.
stated.
Did you hear that, Alan?
I didn't quite understand it, but go ahead, shoot again, please. The answer?
Yes. Just 2 employees.
Okay. That's not including you.
Yeah, so we
So-
have.
Doesn't have to.
So you'll have,
It's two
people
non-resident, two
Right.
non-resident employees.
yeah, okay, got
My
it. I'm good.
justification for that would be that they're not working on site. You know, they will be arriving there and maybe going out in the business vehicles, but they're not working on site.
That's correct.
I'm ready to make a motion if I may.
Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
I motion to grant the applicant the variance to allow 2 full-time non-resident on-site employees. I would like to put a stipulation that there would be some type of screening that we can control the look of the neighborhood. And they seem to be open to that. And I just think, I don't think it needs to be an exact, anything specific, but it's something to screen to try to keep the neighborhood pleasing to your abutters.
Right.
I'll second.
Can we include in there that no materials associated with the landscaping business will be kept on site?
Certainly, it is in the application, but we can add it if you'd like.
With that?
It is in the application that there's no material associated with the landscaping business will be kept on site.
Right, so he does have to oblige.
Yes, he has
abide
to,
by
he has to abide by what he presented and what's in.
Belt and suspenders.
that. Okay, I'll second the motion.
I think I seconded it already, Gail.
Oh, okay. And let's
call for a vote.
do a roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Denise,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
and Gail says yes. Okay. Nancy, do we have the other applicant back for 16?
So you're approved.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you, guys.
congratulations.
Thank you, Nancy, for helping me out.
Oh, you're very
Kick
welcome.
the dogs off the bed.
A notice of, I'll send you a notice of decision in a few days.
Thank you.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Good night, everyone.
All right, you too.
Thank you for hanging in.
Gail, I had to leave a voice message on his set with his cell number and his home phone, and I mentioned about rejoining Teams, or if that was not possible, to contact the number on the agenda, and I left the phone number with each voice message and the participation code number as well. And I have not heard anything.
You did your due diligence. We can continue that one to next month if somebody wants to make that motion.
I'll move that we continue the application without prejudice to the May meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay.
And that serves without notification of abutters?
Yeah, yes, but we have to note the date, time, location, and I always like someone to mention this shall serve as notice to abutters.
All right, I will add that, and that this postponement shall serve as required notice to abutters.
Okay, we're getting some crosstalk because you can't hear one another speak. So Gail, Len was just making his motion.
Yeah.
Do you want him to restate it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, go ahead, Len.
Okay, I move that we postpone this application to the May meeting without prejudice, and this shall serve as required notice to abutters.
Do you want a specific date? I believe it's May 4th.
Whatever the next scheduled meeting of the board on May 4th, if that's the correct date.
Yes, it is. Correct.
It is. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, and did Denise second that?
Yes.
Okay. And Nancy, what we're going to include for the address since it's remote?
Well, I would say I think probably for the record, you can just repeat the phone number for any interested abutters to call in. So, do you have that number in front of you? It's the one that's on the agenda.
Yeah, I got that one.
Okay, and then read in the participation code followed by the pound sign, and I think that would be sufficient as notice to abutters. It's the same thing as them showing up here, only they can't. So that's the alternative way of attending the meeting.
Okay. I can do that. We need a roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Dale? Yes. Motion carries. Okay, then we have two rehearing requests. One from Cronin, Bisson, and Zielinski, attorneys at law for Hemley Investments, regarding the decision rendered February 9th denying the variance request for the proposed multifamily development at 134 Mass Road, map 5, lot 54 and 54-1. Do we have any discussion on that without getting into the merits of the application? Remember that a rehearing request can be granted not necessarily because we agree with the applicant, but if we have reason that we want to, if we're not changing our minds, but we want to make sure that our, that everything that we said is basically dotting our I's and crossing our T's in the hearing.
And I included in the packet, just to refresh everyone's memory, the state's criteria for the burden presented to the applicant for rehearing requests.
So, Gail?
Gail, can you, Jason
Can you hear
has a
me?
question. Gail?
What's that? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't have any problems with a rehearing. I mean, I think the idea of making sure that the I's and T's are dotted makes sense to me. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, Gail, Len here. I frankly don't see the need for a rehearing. I think on the grounds that we denied it, among other things, sweeping an abutter's property into the plan to make it a de facto mixed-use development instead of meeting the terms of the ordinance. I think we compiled a sufficient record looking at the attorney's arguments. I don't see that they're presenting anything new beyond what was in their initial one, other than just simply arguing that we got it wrong. So I would be against a rehearing.
Okay. Alan?
I agree with Len.
Okay. Denise?
You're muted, Denise.
She can't comment. She recused herself.
I've accused myself on this.
That's right.
Oh, that's right, you did, didn't you? Okay, so we have the 4 of us. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to deny the rehearing. I don't see any new information, useful information presented by counsel.
Second.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Alan.
Seconded.
Alan? Okay, we will take a roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Len?
Yes.
Jason?
No.
So what was that, 3 to 1?
What was Gail's vote? I didn't hear it.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, you haven't yet. Okay, I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself.
I kind of like the idea of a rehearing so that we can just make sure things are firmed up the way that, you know, we would want them to be if they go to court. But on the other hand, I think our decisions are our decision and rationale, I think, are also fairly strong. So I'm going to say yes. So we have, Jason said no. We have a vote of 3 to 1 to 0. So the motion carries.
And I'm sorry, can you just repeat the motion?
Motion to deny the request for the rehearing. Len made the motion. Alan seconded the motion. And then Len, Alan, and I said yes, and Jason said no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the second one is a rehearing request regarding the Moose Club Park. Decision rendered on March 2nd, granting the variances for map 19, lots 33 and 34. Do we need a rehearing for that one? Or do we want a rehearing for that one?
Can I offer a couple comments before that happens?
What's that?
May I offer a couple comments before that happens?
Oh, sure.
Well, I'd just like to, we did something tonight where we approved a lot, undersized lot, which was one of the arguments of moving and making it bigger down there on the view. So I'm thinking we established a kind of a double standard of how we're going to look at things, where we can take and change things and put conditions on any approval, where we could have conditioned that approval to make the lot bigger to decrease the variances requested by the applicant for that triangular lot.
Alan?
Yes.
I think we may be, although there are some similarities, we don't, each
Don't go
application
there with me.
is shown without really being compared to another one. That's what we've said so many times.
Well, we have one zoning ordinance, don't we?
What's that?
We have one zoning ordinance.
Yep.
We don't have two.
No, but these are
You
two
can't.
spots that you're talking about, two separate locations.
It's the same zone.
Differently situated
Two
properties,
separate
though.
locations.
You can do that all night long, Lynn.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that one, Alan.
Well,
So are you saying you want to do a rehearing for it?
I would take and grant them a motion for a rehearing.
So you're making a motion to rehear it?
Yes.
Can
Okay.
I ask a clarification
Do
question?
we have a second for that motion?
Gail, I'm sorry, Jason has a clarification question.
Alan, is that motion for both variances that they asked for?
Yes.
What's that?
I asked Alan if his motion covered both variances from that Moose Club Lake one.
It's just a rehearing on the case in its totality. I did separate it into two different motions, Jason.
Okay, I would be in favor of seconding that, Gail.
Did you hear that, Gail?
Did he say he seconds it?
Yes, Jason.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any discussion on it? Okay, so we will have a roll call vote. Alan?
Yes.
Denise?
No.
Len?
No,
And Gail says no. So that motion is denied. Well, not denied, that motion fails 3-0. Do we have, 2-3 rather, do we have an alternate motion?
I motion to deny the hearing.
second,
Okay, we will do a roll call vote for this one. Alan?
No.
Denise?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Did you hear her?
Glenn?
Yep.
yes,
I just did now.
Okay.
Glenn?
yes,
And Jason?
No.
And I say yes, that motion carries 3-2. To deny the request for a rehearing. Okay, and then the last thing on our business for tonight is the nomination and vote or election of chairman and vice chairman. Do we have a nomination for chair?
I will nominate Gail to continue as chair.
Second.
Thank you. I would accept. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Alan?
Abstain.
Okay. Denise?
Yes.
Len?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And I say yes. Motion carries 401. All in favor? And nomination for vice chair?
I nominate Len as vice chair.
I'll accept.
Thank you. And I'll second that motion. And we will do a roll call vote. Alan?
Abstain.
Denise?
Yes.
Len?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And Gail says yes. And that motion carries as well.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much, I think. Okay, so now I will entertain a motion. If we have no other.
I have a quick question.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Denise has a question.
Are we getting new zoning books?
Yes.
Mine's dated till March 2020.
Mine is too. We're going through them, making sure things like the table of contents all jive with the content and references to the page numbers, and so yeah, I've been trying to get that out, but
We'll
get it
have it
out
by next meeting, you think?
soon. Yes.
Right.
The zoning ordinance?
Yes.
Really? The planning board already got theirs.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. Okay, I get it. All right. Motion to adjourn?
I move.
Second.
Did you hear that,
Wait a
Gail?
minute. Who made the motion? Was that Alex?
No, it's Jason.
Oh, sorry, Jason.
I seconded Denise.
Okay, and roll call vote. Ellen?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Len?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And I say yes. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.